MJ Sewall. Hey, wait a minute! It's Mike Sewall again. Am I crazy, or did we just answer Mike Sewall?
Well, he kind of explains what's going on.
Okay, all right. I'm getting ahead of things. Yeah, it's also July 29th, which is a full 2 weeks after the other question. Second question for Dave. Manly Matt Dow Essler, without the word, for more questions. See, that'll do it. And being a, quote, go-getting, unquote, sim fan, here you go. Question for Dave. Have you ever thought of collecting all the early fanzine interviews you did with comic book legends? No, I haven't. And I haven't because all of those interviews were for Comic Art News and Reviews, which was John Balget's magazine. And the last time that I talked to John Balget before his passing, which I would guess was maybe a year or a year and a half, I actually invited him over to the Off-White House and said, I kind of have to bring this up because it doesn't come up all the time. It comes up every once in a while. I have to bring this up in terms of people ask about Comic Art News and Reviews. Are you interested in reprinting Comic Art News and Reviews? And saying, you know, it would be a real basic, just sort of scanning all the black and white pages and then formatting them as a book, and we put it up. And no, he definitely was not interested. Leave it exactly the way it is. Didn't want it solicited through Diamond. Wasn't crazy about companies the size of Diamond or companies the size of anything. He was definitely an extreme leftist, arguably a hardcore communist, and he didn't do Comic Art News and Reviews to make money, and the idea that somebody else would use Comic Art News and Reviews to make money, that just wasn't going to wash with him. So that's always what comes to mind first. Anytime somebody says, have you ever thought of collecting all the early fanzine interviews you did with comic book legends? I did them for Comic Art News and Reviews, and I did them for John Balget. He definitely financed the whole thing, and I'm assuming that was his intention at the time, and that was still his intention a good, we're talking like 25 years after we did Comic Art News and Reviews. So, you know, there's the situation. Are there any memorable ones that are dying to see the light of day? Yeah. I mean, it's anytime that I have an occasion to pull out the Off-White House collection of Comic Art News and Reviews, which is complete and has been in my possession. You know, these are the original copies that I had from John Balget. And I look at them, I go, yeah, that's a good review, that's a good interview, particularly for the time. I was a big fan of the Playboy interview, which obviously we didn't have that kind of space in Comic Art News and Reviews, but reading those interviews and going, there are good questions and there are bad questions. How did you get into the comic book field? That's a bad question. It can definitely be improved on. If you're interviewing Howard Chaykin, you should have different questions than if you're interviewing Mike Kalutin. And I would definitely try to do that. And I always took great pride, since I was in my teens through the whole Comic Art News and Reviews experience. Started when I was 16 in 1972, and I think the last issue was 1975, 1976. So I would have been just turned 20 when it came to an end, if that. The fact that we would hear back from interview subjects, and they would say, "Hey, you ask really good questions." That was always a point of pride for me, because it's like, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I don't want to just have I want to stick a microphone in your face and, okay, now you tell me really important things. It's like, no, you're the one interviewing. You dig and see if you can find an interesting vein. And I did find some interesting veins. I think one of the one of the reactions that did definitely, okay, this is a gold star in my own notebook as far as I'm concerned, was when I interviewed Harvey Kurtzman, and it was at York University in Toronto, and it was part of a student gig where he was talking to an arts group or an arts class, and you were allowed to come in and listen to Harvey Kurtzman's talk. And I asked, when the talk is done, can I do an interview with you? And he said, yeah, I'll be over here, and I'm already doing an interview with the student newspaper. I'll try and fit you in. And it's like, okay, well, that's all I can ask. You're Harvey Kurtzman, and I'm not. So going there, and it's like I arrived, and here's this very pretty young girl interviewing Harvey Kurtzman for the local student newspaper. And it's like Harvey gave her a lot of time and a lot of attention, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm getting sloppy seconds here. Whenever it comes my turn, I'll just hope for the best. I hope she's not using up all of the time that I'm hoping to have, because she's asking student type questions. She's not a comics fan. She knows absolutely nothing about Harvey Kurtzman. That's obvious. But obviously Harvey's enjoying talking to this pretty young lady. So I started interviewing Harvey, and I had my list of questions, and I asked him the first question, and he answered that question very, very succinctly. And I attempted to do a follow-up, and he actually leaned over and pointed at the list of questions, going, "No, go down your list of questions. Don't try and do follow-ups, because I already told you I'm doing the student newspaper. Now it's your turn. You're just doing a fanzine, so you'll get what I give you." So when the interview was done, and I also wrote about Harvey Kurtzman, and I had the mailing address and sent it to Kurtzman, and then got a postcard or a letter back from him going, "Where has Ken R been all my life?" And it's like, okay, well, there's no way that I could tell you, because you had all this experience with guys doing fanzines. It's like, I really don't want to put too much time and energy into this, because it's just going to be a stapled something or other in black and white, and I'll have forgotten what I actually read in it after I read it. And it's like, no, he saw what we were doing, and I'm sure we sent him, the previous couple of back issues before that one, and I think he probably went, should have given this guy a little more time, should have let him do follow-ups. Any interviews you remember fondly? I remember them all fondly. Oh, it's I can picture the situation. I don't think there's any interview that I did where I can't picture where I was set up and who the guy was and what he looked like, and remembering, his voice, his mannerisms, because when you're transcribing an interview, it's like you can only play like five words, 10 words, and then you've got to transcribe it, and you have to go back and check. So all of them are very, very vivid. And okay, there's your 3 additional questions, and thank you, Matt, for prompting MJ Dodger Sewall on that one.
You're welcome.
Now, don't say I never done nothing for you.